I need a break. Have you ever felt that way? I just need some relief because it just seems that at every turn something is coming up against me. God gives us some instructions in that because oftentimes His people face those types of situations. And the great thing about the Bible, it's a practical book that can help us in whatever our situation may be. There's a beautiful section of Scripture in Psalm 56 that describes a time that David was going through tremendous difficulties. See if this is what your life feels like sometimes. David says, "A man would swallow me up. Fighting all day, he oppresses me. My enemies would hound me all the day." And maybe you felt like that. I've felt like that. It just seems like these little dogs are just biting at your heels and you just can't get away from it. It's just so annoying and it just is irritating and I just can't get beyond it. Well, the interesting thing is we can get beyond it, especially if we see it from God's perspective, because God is there with us, no matter what the circumstances may be. Psalm 56 reminds us of that very fact, of where we need to turn when we're faced with this difficulty. In fact, even as a nation here in America, we recognize that fact. At least a number of years ago, over 60 years ago, we recognized that and actually looked to Psalm 56 for our help. And you know where that is? You can read it over in verse 11. Psalm 56, verse 11. When the hounds are biting at your heels, when you're anxious, when you're facing these difficulties, here's what verse 11 says. "In God I have put my trust. I will not be afraid. What can man do to me?" You see, God is overseeing our lives. When we look to Him, when we allow Him to lead us and guide us, He's never going to leave us. And in fact, there was a time in the United States we looked to God. 1956, we made a version of verse 11 our national motto. In God we trust. In fact, it still is our motto today. Perhaps we don't live by that in America anymore, but we should. We need to do that. As Christians, we need to be living, breathing examples of what Psalm 56 is all about. Because it says when we're challenged, we always look to God. No matter difficult times, in the good times, we're going to look to God and trust in Him. And when we do that, we will certainly recognize the fact there's nothing of significance that can hurt us or come between us when we ultimately look to God. And so Psalm 56 ends this way. "I may walk before God in the light of the living." So let's do that very thing. Let's trust in Him no matter what our circumstances, and we will see the light. It's BT Daily. We'll see you next time.